Yeah, this is a great question because I've done probably in excess of 150 joint ventures, way over 200 purchases, a lot with my own money now. But I've worked with probably every type of investor that there is going out there. And when Grace Charles was 2016, 2017, 2018, it was just we were fighting investors off. We couldn't do enough deals. The problem is you get investors where they will offer you the money, and not all investors' money should be treated equally. And what I mean by that is, what else are you getting? I'll never forget, there was one investor, he came to see us in Norwich, and at the time I had a BDM, so he was basically the buffer between me and an investor. He would sieve through, because we were getting so many requests and we were getting so many nutcases. But he said, look, this guy's coming up to see us, he's sold his business, he's got about 600k. He's, quite popular in terms of he's doing a lot of social media. He's got a lot of traction that way. He wants to do a deal with us and he wants to sit down and have a conversation. I said, okay, look, if you think this is going to be worthwhile, let's put the time aside. And then we had a sort of a format of meeting someone, and then I would take them out to a handful of our projects. We probably had anything from 9 to 11 projects on the go at any given time. We'd also show them some of our finished projects and then come back and have a coffee and go from there. That was kind of our routine. And I'll never forget, this guy came up, I sat down, the BDM had already been chatting to him and made him a coffee and that. And this guy just proceeded to talk at me for half an hour without taking a breath. I can tell you about how he's got other people's money and he's pulling money in together, and he wants to create a platform where he can fund every deal, and he's got multiple deals going on with multiple developers, and he was telling me about all these joint ventures he was doing. And after about 45 minutes, I cut the meeting short and didn't do anything else and let him go on his way. He was none the wiser, he wasn't expecting anything. And I pulled my BDM to one side and I basically said, is this guy all the ticket? He just sounds like an absolute crazy person. And he was convinced this guy was 100% genuine, and he had money. And I don't mean genuine in that he had money, genuine that he is going to be a right fit for us. So I took the BDM's suggestion to offer one of our up and coming deals to this guy, which we did, and he went for it. And he was determined to do more than one deal. And I said, look, we've got a bit more of a complex project on the go. We weren't going to offer it out to an investor, but one of the rules and ethos as we live as a business is that we will offer complex deals out to investors as long as they understand the complexity and the risks. And offered him the deal. He wanted to do it. And fast forward, this guy, we had to go joint details on a lender's application because he was 50% shareholder in the SPV. And the lender, which we did a lot with, called me up. Normal buy-to-let lender, not like a challenger bridging lender. They just said, look, Dan, whilst this guy is on this application, we are not going to lend you the money. He's put X, Y, and Z in terms of earnings, X, Y, and Z in terms of savings, X, Y in terms of where the funds have come from, and nothing supports it. In fact, we think that he's pooling investors' money together and claiming it as savings. So by this point, because we were quite a trusting young business, we'd already exchanged on the deal, and the deal was a delayed completion to allow us to do the works. We were well in on the refurb. The finance was to complete the purchase, and the investor was in because they were supposed to be invested in the refurb, but they hadn't sent any money over, which I found out through the accounting department. So I realised that we were actually funding a deal that we were sharing 50-50 with a guy who'd been lying on his application. And it sounded like he was breaching FCA regulations because he was pulling other people's money and claiming it was his. So straight away, I called the guy up. I told him what the situation was. I said, I wasn't going to do it over email. I'm telling you sort of on the phone that this deal has to come away from you for X, Y, and Z reasons. And he just would not accept it. He was so deluded. And I was on the phone to him for nearly 2 hours while he talked and talked and talked at me. But the decision didn't change because he could not justify his actions so far. So we pulled that deal from him. That was it, really. He went on a crusade, a campaign on calling me a fraudster. And I was getting messages from other people across the property network and world saying this guy is doing presentations on you, calling you a fraudster. And I just said, look, we've got so many investors who are working with us. We've never had this issue before, apart from with him. And it went on the other deal as well, that we had to buy him out. Now, this deal had completed, so we bought him out for a fair price, 50% of the profit. But he still wasn't happy with that. He wanted more. He wanted more of the profit. And he was threatening, saying he's going to keep bad-mouthing us and calling me a fraudster. But I just didn't care. I knew the facts. I knew he was in the wrong. I knew what he was trying to do was completely fraudulent and illegal. And we didn't need to shout to anyone about it. The business was a huge success and he was in the wrong. And eventually it died down and he disappeared. But I think he is still out. I had to block him because he was messaging me constantly. And that's just one example. Got investors who want to be your best friends and they time vampires, suck your time like vampires suck the life out of people. So that's a little rant from me, and it doesn't really answer your question. Where does it help you find investors? Look, if you get a deal, you will find an investor. I promise you that if you find a great deal and it is a genuine deal, the investors will come knocking on your door. And networking events, social media, TikTok, all you've got to do is put yourself out there and they will come knocking. But just because they do doesn't mean you should say yes.